Hello, I'm Dave Bowden. I'm an educator and I'm a poet. And welcome to my talk, which is not about being a poet or a writer or an educator. It's not really about any of those jobs. This is a talk about doing what you're passionate about. It's to talk about creating opportunity through the language that you use, and it's to talk about maintaining positivity to ensure a successful and happy future. So really what this is a pep talk somewhat. Let's consider this a half-time talk for the rest of your life, which I've probably oversold this talk now to you, but I hope you'll enjoy it. So I'm going to start by telling you more about me, and with this explaining the importance of working towards what you're passionate about. So, hello, I'm David Bowden. I am a former primary school head teacher, and now, amongst other things, other educational job roles, I'm also the founder of an organisation called Word Gorilla. I'm going to read this off now. It's an organisation that delivers performance poetry with a difference, using beatboxing, looping, and multi-instrumentalism to create a soundscape to hang words off, and an organisation that delivers workshops based around poetry and writing to a variety of different educational settings, workplaces, and events, with a key focus on developing the confidence in people to write and be creative, promoting engagement, productivity, and well-being. Now, I read that off, and there's a reason why I read that off, because if people ask what I do, then I give them that sort of blurb, really. Over the phone, I'd probably read that off, or I'd give it a smaller kind of condensed version in person. But if people ask, that's what I say. But in truth, what I do is a much shorter answer than that, because the short answer is what I do is I do what I really love. I do what I'm really passionate about. Which is writing and performing and working with people, educating people, training people, thinking critically. The things that I enjoy are encapsulated in my job that I do with Word Gorilla, and also in several other educational roles that I have. So how did I get here? And the answer is there is no direct route. In terms of getting to kind of do something that I really, really love doing, there was no direct route to that. But it is a route defined about doing what I enjoy. I went to school, like most people. I went to school, and I wouldn't say I was particularly academic. I did okay, and I did well enough to get to a good red brick university. I studied sociology, did a degree in sociology. And the reason why I did a degree in sociology was because I liked it. Simple as that. I had no plan. I didn't want a specific job or anything else like that. I just enjoyed it. So it made sense. Well, why would I not do something that that I enjoy? I must do that. So I did that, and I worked really hard at that, and I got a first class degree. And I think the reason why I got a first class degree and then all of a sudden became, I suppose, quite academic, was the fact that I actually really, really liked what I was doing. And that was really, really important. It didn't come easy. If you want something, first class degree, you have to work hard. So, I worked hard to get that. So I finished university, and I was considering, maybe I'm academic. Maybe I should go into academia, get a master's, maybe do a PhD, something like that. But it didn't really kind of sit well with me. So I decided against that. And I didn't really have any kind of clear plan for what my future was. And I think the reason was because I didn't really know what I was really, really passionate about. So I wandered around for a few years in a good way, doing lots of different jobs. And they're all things that I was, really happy to do, and I enjoyed. So I worked in bars. I was a bartender. I was a very good one. I sold Levi's jeans. I I was really good at selling jeans, and I enjoyed that. You know, I was a teaching assistant in a primary school, in a secondary school. I was a landscape gardener. I lived abroad. I lived in Canada, and in Canada I taught outdoor education, and I taught things like going on canoe trips and survival skills, and all these things. I really loved doing all those things, getting all these different experiences. And from these experiences, you know, putting myself out there and doing all these different things, I kind of found out that what I really liked doing was I like working with young people, and helping them to make their lives better. So it kind of made sense to me. Well, I'll become a teacher, and I was pretty good at it. I still am a teacher. I'm qualified. I'm still a teacher, and I'm still good at educating. You know, so I became a teacher. And after 5 years, I was a primary school teacher. After 5 years, I became an assistant head teacher. And I wouldn't say I was particularly ambitious necessarily. That I never really had ambitions to become a senior leader, but I just worked hard and I enjoyed what I was doing. And I think I, you know, got noticed for that. And then when opportunities came up, I thought, well, I'm going to take those opportunities, you know, and that's important. When opportunities do come up, you take them. So by 5 years, I was an assistant head. And there were 7 years from qualifying as a teacher, I became a head teacher. So in kind of a relatively short space of time. And I really enjoyed being a head teacher. It was very, very challenging at times, but it was really great leading a school and shaping a school and making a really positive impact on young people's lives and the lives of colleagues. And it was sort of during this time that I'd kind of put all my experiences together, things that I did, and realised what it was that I was passionate about, you know. And sometimes that can take a lot of time to kind of go, actually, this is what I really like doing, you know. But I realised what I was passionate about was developing really positive working relationships with people, and coaching and training, in particular speaking to audiences, performing and writing. But I didn't really know how to bring these things together, and you know, and to put them into a job. And that can be tricky, can't it? You know, when you kind of go, you know, I like all these different things, but I don't really know where that kind of fits into life or into a job. And then I had an idea, a spark, as it were. And I think sometimes you need that, you know, a eureka moment, you know, the apple dropping from the tree onto your head and realizing you've just found out gravity. It wasn't quite as big as that, but I had a spark and I had an idea, and it came from a dream. And this is it certainly felt like a dream at the time. One night I had a dream, and in the dream I was performing poetry to children in a school. And whatever I was doing, the kids were really, really loving it. And there was a poem that was going on, and I woke immediately, and I started writing that poem down. And for the next day, I started writing this poem. And I'd always written poetry and words, you know, various different forms. Kept notebooks and journals, and played in bands and wrote songs. But I'd never kind of really sat down and thought and tried to really kind of write something for an audience. And it was an audience I know really well, young, you know, primary school children or children or the youth in general. So I wrote this poem, and when I finished writing this poem, I was like, that's pretty good. What I've got there is something really great. And you know what, I'm going to do this poem for you so you can get a flavour of me writing this and then reading it for the first time and going, actually, I think I might be able to make something out of this. So I'm going to read this for you, or I'm going to recite it. It's called My Poem Was Sick. And it's a play on words about, you know, the word being sick, as in sick, and as in being sick. So my poem was sick, you know. I called a doctor and he told me to go. He said, this poem has an incurable disease far beyond my own expertise. My poem is sick, I said. I called an ambulance and I was filled with dread, and the paramedic proclaimed, it's dead. It's dead good, dead right. A poem this sick will give us all our fright. My poem was sick, you see. It needed medication from the pharmacy. I gave it a potion of chemical diversity, but its survival was not in certainty. It was sick, so sick, diseased and frightful, so ill, it was not allowed to attend any poetry recital for fear its sickness would infect, become viral. And then one day my poem was laying on its sick bed, resting its weary and tired sick head, and I said, poem, you're sick, you know. Poem, you're sick, you see. You're the sickest of them, almost certainly. You are dead good. You are dead right. Your powerful flow will be the main highlight of any top night and the campfire light where people get together to be thrilled and delight over words of potency, words of pain, words of sickness, words of disdain, and words of happiness, words of true love, words of passion, positivity and purity that make us come together and hold each other tight and hug as one. Poem, you are sick, you see, and I want that sickness infecting me, my friends, my family, everybody. I want us to all get ill of your sick poetry. And from that day, with resounding slickness, my poem could be seen delivering sickness, men, women, children, all bearing witness to its poetic, powerful flow. Some would laugh, some would cry, but all would know that poem was one sick, ill, vocabulist dynamo. So I wrote that and I thought, you know what? Why can't that be my job? That's a really good poem. Why can't I go into schools and deliver that and do workshops and base loads of other stuff about the writing that I'm doing? At that time, I'd only written one thing really, but I thought, why not? Why not? I love that. And so I thought about it for a while and I just kept thinking, oh, it's just money, isn't it? This is a crazy, crazy idea that I've got. You know, doing all those things that I know I can do. I can put this all together, you know, about, you know, working with young people and writing, performing and training people and creating passion and engaging audiences and using language. I could put all those things together, but am I going to get paid? Am I going to make any money? And I kind of felt like probably not. So, you know, I kept the idea there and I carried on writing and trying things out with the kids at my school as well, and I would also outsource myself to other schools as well, doing poetry performances and workshops. So I was still doing it, but I wasn't going to kind of walk away from my actual job as a head teacher at the time. And then I happened on a talk by a philosopher called Alan Watts, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase this because in this talk, Alan Watts says this. He says, "What do you desire? What would you like to do for the rest of your life if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending the rest of your life? Well, forget money. Because if you say that getting money is the most important thing, you'll spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like in order to go on living, and that is to go on doing the things you don't like doing, which is stupid." And that really made sense to me. Now, that wasn't to say that I didn't really like what I was doing in terms of being a head teacher. But I was thinking, yeah, but why don't I do something that I really, really, really love and really, really want to do and wake up and spring out of bed to do? You know, it'd be crazy to not do that. Surely. Importantly, Alan Watts says that, you know, if you do have a passion, you're not going to, and you want to make it into a job, you're not going to start out and people are just going to start paying you to do it. It would take time, you know, but gradually you'll develop expertise and you'll develop clients and people will start paying you for your expertise more. And then you'll spend the rest of your life doing something that you really enjoy. You know, so those words really, really resonated with me. And then I also heard something from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, if you're of a particular age, so I'm 36, you know, so he was quite a kind of Hollywood movie star. You probably know who he is, you know, did films like Terminator 2 and Conan the Barbarian. Anyway, he was a bodybuilder turned movie star. But even before he was a movie star, he made loads of money out of bodybuilding and built a property empire. But he gave a talk, and in his talk he essentially said that for him there was no plan B, there was only plan A. And the reason for this is it's easy to have a plan B, something to fall back on. And sometimes, you know what, it's not a bad idea to have a plan B, you know, to have the option in case plan A fails. But if you have the option that plan A might fail, then you've already decided that plan A might potentially fail. So for me now, plan A is my only plan of doing what I love to do, of working only in jobs that I really, really love to do, you know. So my jobs now are I work with Word Gorilla, and tomorrow I'm performing in schools. I work with the Open University as well, and I work developing curriculum there, which I absolutely love doing, and working, you know, with lots of people facilitating learning and developing those great working relationships. And I also work with an organisation called the Inclusion Quality Mark, who go and they assess schools and give them an accreditation for inclusion, and I love doing that, listening to great practice in schools. So I'm doing everything that I absolutely really love doing, you know. And when I look back on my life, and I think I realised why I was so successful as a university, and it was because I chose something that really interested, something that I cared about. And now what's happened is I've created a job that I really care about, that I'm passionate about. It's something that's mine, you know, and that means I'm going to be successful. There is no other reason to not do, you know, to not do that. I will be successful as that, you know. I want to be successful with that, and I'm passionate about that. Because I'm passionate about it, I'm really happy, and that is really, really important. Now, importantly, I am very realistic about this. You know, I didn't leave a job from being a head teacher, which is, you know, it's a great job, and financially it's quite rewarding. But I didn't leave that and just go, well, I'm just going to go and be a poet. You know, I had other plans alongside that, and realised how I could incorporate lots of different things to make things work for me. So it's important in terms of being realistic. But as I said, I'm doing various different jobs in education, and things that I really love and things that I really care about. So my message here is do what you enjoy. Do what you love, you know, and you will be successful. In fact, I'd say why wouldn't you? Why shouldn't you? Don't do what you think will earn you lots of money unless you're passionate about it, you know. And don't get hung up on finding your passion. I've not found my passion yet. I've not really found what you're into. Just do lots of other stuff, you know. Keep doing those things, and then you will find out eventually what you do want to do, you know. Those experiences, all the experience I had, helped to kind of build me a picture of what I was into, of what I was passionate about. So now I'm going to talk very briefly about creating opportunity and using words and language that can define your reality. Because for me, you know, I was very clear on what I wanted to do, about having a passion and working towards that. But the language that I surrounded myself in was very important. You know, words are incredibly powerful. You know, I know this because I write, and I'm essentially building, you know, a business about around words and the use of words. You know, to develop individuals and individuality and creativity and productivity and all those things. So words are incredibly powerful. You know, an example of this is when I was at school. I wasn't very good at maths. I say when I was at school because it was when I was at school. It's not now. When I was at school, I wasn't very good at maths. And all the time I said, I can't do this. You know, I wouldn't even try sometimes. I just can't do this. And I created a self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially, of an inability to kind of ever succeed in that field or whatever I was doing. You know, and years later, then when I was training to teach, I said to myself, you know what, I can do this. I will learn to do this. I don't understand this yet, but I will. You know, And it was those affirmations and that choice of language that really defined my reality and created that possibility and opportunity for me. And so there's 4 things that I'm going to share with you now, 4 words or phrases that for me are really fundamental in creating opportunity and defining reality and creating success. And the first of those words is the word yes. And there's been a book about this called The Yes Man. There's been a film about this called The Yes Man. You know, say yes to everything. Now, within reason, say yes to everything, but certainly in terms of work and opportunity, say yes, because it opens doors, okay? Sometimes I've regretted saying yes to certain things because it's meant that I've got to do a lot more work. But pretty much every single time when I said yes to something, despite the fact that during the time I was like, oh, why did I say yes to this? Afterwards, I'm like, you know what? I was really, really pleased that I had the opportunity to do that. You know, a really prime example is when I was a primary school teacher, I said yes to being part of a Shakespeare school festival. Didn't even really know what it was. Like Shakespeare, thought, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. Somebody asked me, yeah, great, I'll do it, no problem. And turns out I had to put on I had to take a whole class of 30 children, get them to perform Macbeth in a theatre, and they all had to be on stage all at the same time. I had to direct it and get all the music for it, and it was a big job, but it was amazing. It was hard work at the time, and some of the training that I got from that I still use now. You know, so that was all just from going, yeah, you know what, I'll do that, I'll try that, I'll give it a go. So say yes. The second thing or phrase that is really important is I am, followed by a positive adjectival phrase. So I am good enough for this job, or I am able to do this, because our language defines our reality. So if you tell yourself that you are something or that you can do it, then the likelihood is you will be able to do it, but you will need to put the work in. My third phrase is I will. Okay. Now, will is a modal verb, and that indicates the likelihood of something happening. Now, other examples of modal verbs are things like may or could or might or should. And the problems with those examples is they create a likelihood that something won't happen. You know, so you say, oh, yeah, I might do that. Well, you might not. And, you know, I will do that when you will then. Okay, so using that phrase of I will do this, it creates that reality in your mind. So that is incredibly important. You know, if you believe you can do something, then you can achieve it. Again, you just have to put the work in. And then my last phrase that's incredibly important is I get to. Okay, and for this, I'm going to recite another piece of poetry for you that I wrote, and this is called "Got into Get," and it needs no other explanation. I'm just going to say this to you, and you'll realise why using the phrase I get to is so important. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to do something, and that is a fact. I've got to get up because I can't lie in bed. I've got to get moving, be active instead. Got to get clean. I've got to get dressed. I've got to make sure I don't leave a mess. I've got to do things I don't want to do. I've got to, I must, and so must you. You've got to. And the problem here is not the content or the type of task, but the language that determines how you feel about doing it. I've got to implies that you don't really want to go through with it. Now, we've all got to do something, that much is true. But if we change the words got into get, we create opportunity. And now I get to do something that I want to see through. I get to do this. I get to do that. I get to do something, and that is a fact. I get to get up because I can't lie in bed, and I get to get moving, be active instead. And I get to get clean, and I get to get dressed, and I get to make sure I don't leave a mess. And sometimes I won't just get to do what I want to do. And it's always the case, and it will be for you, but mostly oldest side that I get to. I get to see opportunity, and you can too. So using that simple word or phrasing that word, I get to, really creates that opportunity. You know, so my message here is choose your language carefully. It can define and shape your reality. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is about maintaining positivity. So I've talked about choosing your passions about choosing your language very carefully to help, direct you. And now I'm going to talk about maintaining positivity by surrounding yourself with words and language for motivation and inspiration. Now, negativity is like a bad apple. Okay, you have a bad apple in the apple cart, and that one bad apple can rot the whole cart. So negativity is a dreadful thing. And because this is so important to surround yourself with positive words and language, which I've explained about, several years ago, due to various events that had happened in my life, I suffered from depression, and there were a couple of things that really got me through that. There were two things, in fact. The first thing, to help see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the first thing was being really inspired and being motivated by others, what others were saying, so listening to motivational talks and nuggets of wisdom from people like Alan Watts or Arnold Schwarzenegger, or a guy called Les Brown, who I'm going to talk very briefly about in a minute. Reading books like Steve Peters' Chimp Paradox or James Clear's Atomic Habits, that all kind of helped me to understand how to improve my life and be more positive and motivated. There's so much information out there to keep you up and running, to keep you moving forward, and to help you stay positive. And the second thing that I think is incredibly important is writing. I'm a real advocate of that, obviously. I advocate this through Word Gorilla. It's one of the best things that you can do, because writing's so important, and it's helped me in my life to understand how I felt and go through that process, but also had to really kind of frame things positively. And one of the best things to do with that is every day in the evening, I write down, I keep a diary, I keep a journal, and I write down 3 things that were positive about my day to keep me motivated and to inspire me, even through adversity, even though when there's difficult stuff going on, I can find those good things, those positive things, And I write about things like peanut butter, because that's really nice, and bike rides, because I love them, and water slides, because who's not happy when on a water slide? Things that make me smile. I write about that sort of thing, and sometimes I write things to inspire me as well. So I want to share something with you now, which paraphrases something from Les Brown, who I spoke about a minute, who's a motivational speaker, and he talks about how when you have a bad day, you're actually having a character building day. And that really kind of resonated with me when I heard that. So I wrote this poem, and it was written at a time in my life when I felt like things could have kind of gone either way. It could have been really positive for me or really negative. I needed to make a decision, and I wrote this to kind of frame that moment. So, you know what? I need to make that right choice now. And this is called Today. Today is a landmark day. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Bones that were broken can now heal. Dreams that were broken, shattered, can now be pieced back together. Turn to reality. Relationships that were broken can now be repaired. Anxiety can transform into anxiety can transform into hopefulness. Emptiness can transform into overflowing. Loneliness can transform into cherished. Things are never as bad as you think they are. Rough times have not come to stay, they've come to pass. And in any case, if you are having a bad day, you're in fact having a character building day. And today you're all the stronger for it. Today is a landmark day. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Step off the dance floor for a minute. Look around. Take it all in. And when you're ready, dance your dance again. Because today you are strong, because today you have power, and because today you have creativity. And today you have the character and courage to know that where you've come from will not determine where you now decide to go. Today is a landmark day. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. So my key message here is surround yourself in positivity. positive ideas, language from others, you know, from yourself. Help frame your situation in a positive life, whatever that might be, because your language can really define your reality and where you go next with it. So this brings my talk to a conclusion. And I've probably not helped you with your future career. If you clicked on me thinking I want to be a poet, then I probably haven't helped you whatsoever, or even be a teacher. Unless your future career is being happy. That's what this is about. It's about choosing a future career, about being happy and choosing something that you're passionate about, you know, because if you can do that, then your likelihood is you're going to be more successful and you are going to be happier. And I hope that I have helped you to kind of see that. Well, 3 take homes from this are, number 1, do what you're passionate about. Okay. There might be some jobs like banking, might bring in a lot of cash, but will you love it? Okay. And do you want to spend the rest of your days doing it? If you do, then do that. If not, do something else. Okay. Life's long, so make the most of it as much as you possibly can. Second take home is choose your language carefully because it defines your reality. Okay. And the third thing is be positive and surround yourself with positivity. Listen to positivity, write it down. If you do all those things, then you'll be okay. Above all, on your path to happiness and finding your passion and success in your future, okay, when finding something worth doing, sometimes things are going to be tough, okay. Great writer Hunter S. Thompson says anything worth doing is worth doing right, and that's important. And as I say, the right thing is not always the easiest thing. So on your journey, things might be tricky, but stick at it, be positive. You will do this, you will succeed. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that. I think that was really inspiring. And one thing I really picked up on while I was watching that is, although with Inspire Your Future, I've had so many different people who have delivered so many different types of talks, a lot of the messages that I think come through are the same about really following your passions. And you summed it up really well at the end. And I thought that was really nicely done. And I love the way you sort of filtered in different bits of poetry, which I thought works really well. And I love the I love the sort of get to do it instead of got to. I think when I organised a TEDx Youth at Carnation School, and that was one thing I really thought, you see education as an opportunity. This isn't something you have to do, but you're lucky it's not just what you think, and it's quite a opportunity. You get to go to school and you get to do all these things. I think that's so important, and you really summed it up really well.
And you know what? Sometimes there's things in life that you really don't want to do, you know. But you know, if you difficult decisions you've got to make or difficult conversations, and you just say, you know what, I get to do this because I get to learn from it. It's all experience. So if you frame it like that, it makes things easier.
Yeah, just taking all of these opportunities. There was just 2 things I sort of wanted to ask you. I thought you summed it up really well. So sure. At the start, you spoke about all the different things that you enjoyed doing and all the things that you loved. And I'm similar to so many things that I really like. Is there any tips you'd recommend on people to narrow that down, or how can they pick out what it is that they really want to do? Because there can be a lot of things that are so different. So how would you recommend any tips on that?
You know what, I do have a tip for that, because I mean I've kind of ended up sort of doing things that I never really thought I would do. So I wasn't kind of particularly driven to one sort of thing, but when I was younger, and even now, I play the guitar. I love it. I love playing guitar. I love picking it up. I've got my guitar here. In fact, when I was 16, I worked at Safeway for the entire summer. I had no days off, and I bought this beautiful guitar here, and this means the world to me. And I went from being a kid who played a lot of computer games to only playing guitar sort of 4 or 5 hours a day. So I'm quite a good guitar player. And I thought to myself when I was a kid, I was like, actually, maybe that could be my job. I love it. I could go and, you know, play guitar. And I had this conversation with various different people. My dad, he's a folk musician. So there was lots of musicians to talk to. And a lot of them were kind of like, oh, you won't make a lot of money and this and that. And they put me off doing what I thought actually I could do. And listen, life's not about regrets. So I'm not now going, oh man, like I wish I'd stuck at that guitar and become a session player. It's not about that, okay? But my advice to anybody now is in terms of narrowing something down. If you know that you really, really like something, don't let anyone else tell you that you can do something different or that you're not going to make any money out of it, because they don't know. You know, they might have some inclination to it, they might have some wisdom, but ultimately, if there's something that you really, really love, you can make something of it. You can make it happen. You know, you might not make a fortune initially, but you've got a long life to make a fortune. So just do what you do enjoy. You know, don't let anybody put you off, and don't let anybody put any ideas in your mind that you can't do this, or you know, running your own business is difficult. You won't like that. You know, don't let anyone put those ideas in your mind. If you think something, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Got to put work in though. So that's my advice. Whether that answers your question or not, Charlie, I don't know, but yeah.
No, yeah, that's brilliant. This may sound sort of contradictory to what I've just said, but obviously that was people who know lots of things. What was it? Have you got any advice for someone who doesn't quite know what they love and they're not sure what it is they enjoy doing? I know we definitely talk about taking all of these opportunities. I'm not sure if there was just something small you could add on to that.
Just do as many different things as you possibly can, because you never know really. So I was, you know, there was a while in my life when I worked. I lived in Canada and I taught outdoor education, and I loved doing that. It was brilliant. In fact, one day I was out on a canoe trip. I used to take canoe trips, like we'd go up for 2 weeks with all our food with us, and I was like, I can't believe somebody's paying me to do this. Like, unbelievable experience. And then I came back home, and I came back home originally to. I came back home, well, firstly for a woman. That's very important. So I came back home for love, and to England. And I thought I'm going to get qualified in various different things to do outdoor education here. But I didn't have any money, so I needed a job. And my brother-in-law said, you can come work for me and be a landscape gardener, which I actually really, really enjoyed. But there were some days when I'd mow a lawn, which needed doing. It was part of the job, and I'd kind of zone out. And you know, like 3 or 4 hours later, I'd be like, oh, I've just been mowing some grass, you know, which at times would be wonderful, but it kind of made me realise, like, I didn't like that feeling of zoning out. You know, I like that feeling of kind of being in there and doing things all the time. And there are elements of that job that I loved. I love being outdoors, and you know, I kind of thought, well, if I went into teaching, I could bring out all those things that I'd done out there. I could be outdoors at times, you know. But I suppose that experience made me realise that wasn't. There were parts of that for me, but that wasn't for me. You know, in the long run, I enjoyed it at the time, but I wouldn't have enjoyed it forever. So, in answer to your question, you know, you'd never really know until you've done something and you've tried things out. And sometimes things can be scary to try out, but just do it anyway. You know, I became a head teacher. That's quite a frightening thing to do. And at the time I was thinking, I don't really know whether this is what I want to do, but I thought, well, you know what, I'll never actually know unless I actually do it. So, you know, you don't know whether you like swimming until you jump in the water, do you?
Yeah.
You know? So that's so yeah, you just got to try things. And that my mum gave me that advice, you know, years ago. She just said, just do as much as you can do so you figure out what you don't like. Because if you really figure out what you don't like, then you're probably going to realize what you do like. So yeah.
I think that's so important. Just taking, I know there's lots of things I thought might not work, or people might not think that you can do it, but just definitely trying everything. Obviously, being realistic and not dangerous sometimes, but just try so many different things, and then you can find what it is, or maybe you can find similarities, like you did with what it is that you really enjoy. But
yeah,
yeah,
and sometimes, Charlie, you just need that spark. You just need that idea, to it's like the guy who made millions off the cat eye lights in
oh yeah,
roads. So he just thought of that. This is what
yeah,
roads need. Boom, and you might be lucky enough to get that moment, but you might not be. You could be waiting around forever for that sort of epiphany. So try loads of different things out.
and I feel once you do that, they snowball as well. I've definitely found once you try one thing, there's so many more things that sort of come in, and I sort of found myself like a year, 2 years on. So many
Yeah,
more things that I find that I actually am quite passionate about that I didn't really think about before. So just trying all
exactly.
these different things.
And when I was a landscape gardener as well, like I did really love it, and I thought about kind of doing more studies about it and going to arborology, becoming a tree surgeon, because I actually did really enjoy it. There was just elements that I didn't really like, so I thought, well, what could I do more of?
Mm.
But at that time, it just so happened that I saw a teacher training course, and I thought, well, actually, I'll give that a go.
Yeah,
So
nice.
I was never committed to any one thing. What I was committed to doing was trying lots of different things, and as long as I was happy, carrying on.
Yeah, it pays off.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking your time. Okay, so we're going to sort of to the end now. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it's been really, really inspiring. And if anyone's
Thank,
got any questions for you, they can put those on our website.
yeah, and thank you for having me. And peace be the journey to everybody. Hard work beats talent when
Yeah,
talent doesn't work.
well said. So thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you.